I just ran every single new Rune Gamma Dungeon, and I have fantastic news. These are the best and most rewarding dungeons I've ever run in Wrath of the Lich King. There are even more rewards than before, and the runs are much faster and much easier to do with the new random dungeon finder system. With all that good experience, I wanted to cover all the new features in Gamma and how to take advantage of them. We'll of course also talk about the brand new vendor and how to get overpowered 245 trinkets and weapons as fast as possible. But first, the basics. If you've been keeping up with Wrath of the Lich King, you'll know all about the new Rune modes that Blizzard has added each phase. These are basically upgrades to heroic dungeons with higher enemy damage and health, as well as new mechanics. Of course, there's also plenty of new gear, which makes Rune the best way to catch up fresh alts. In the Rune Alpha mode, which was added back in the Alduar patch, we saw 200 and 213 item level gear. Then in the TOC patch, we got Rune Beta, which gave us a new 225 gear and Sidereal Essence to buy 239 hard mode pieces. Now though, we're getting the new Rune Gamma. This is the new Phase 4 version with a brand new currency to buy 245 item level trinkets and weapons. Rune Gamma features the highest health and damage for enemies, but also new mechanics to make the dungeons faster and more enjoyable. Combined with the new random dungeon finder system, Gamma Dungeons are the single best way to catch up your characters. So let's talk about the new mechanics as well as all the insane rewards. We'll also talk about how to use Gamma with the new RDF system to get gear a lot faster. Alright, so the first thing you need to know about Rune Gamma is how to activate it. Just like always, if you enter a heroic dungeon, the orb will be there with a drop-down menu. Then you can activate Gamma and wait for your lovely teammates to wake up and click the orb. Alternatively, if you queue up with RDF, which is highly recommended and something we'll cover later in the video, you won't have to click the orb at all. Inside of every dungeon near the orb is also a new buff NPC. This new NPC will give you one of 4 possible buffs, which you get to choose. The first buff is the Shatter Armor effect, which increases enemy damage taken by 20%. Then you could also choose the Rallying Cry of the Tournament Champion buff. Your critical strikes will then have a chance to increase haste by 20% for 10 seconds. Healers, though, will most likely want the Confessor's Wrath buff. This buff gives you a stacking 20% damage buff every time you heal. Then when you finally cast a damaging spell, you'll get 5 seconds of bonus 100% damage. The last and most boring option, though, is just a Thorn style buff that does about 1200 damage every time you dodge, parry, or block. One key note from my PTR testing is that the NPC buffs did stay on through death. That being said, if you did release, you'd have to go back and get the buff again. If you're worried about the new buff NPC making Gamma Dungeons too easy, that really won't be a problem though. In the original alpha version, with a few exceptions, mob damage increased by 30%. Then in beta mode, we went up to 45% increased damage. Now, however, we're jumping all the way up to 70% increased mob damage. Let me tell you from experience, these dungeons really aren't a joke. With full BIS gear, we didn't have any outright wipes in my testing, but we had way more close calls than I've had in recent beta dungeons. Word of advice, if you make a completely fresh character, you'll definitely want to hit alpha and beta first. On top of that big increased damage, we also get 215% health increases for mobs across the board. Again, there are a few exceptions though, like Hulls of Lightning with an insane 880% health increase. Though luckily, just like in beta mode, you'll get those keeper buffs to breeze through with no problem. There are also some small new mechanics additions, so you'll want an updated weak aura pack. The most up-to-date weak aura pack is from Stay, and it features the new Rune Gamma modes. I've linked it in the description below the video, so check it out. Before we talk about the rewards and some crazy tricks to get gear a lot faster, we should also talk about the new Frozen Halls dungeons. These dungeons won't be getting a new Gamma mode since Blizzard realized that tacking extra mechanics onto late game dungeons was a fiasco. I mean, just look at Trial of the Champion, that thing is a meat grinder. Luckily though, the new dungeons like Forge of Souls will still drop rewards like the extremely valuable Defiler Scourge Stones all the same. Just remember to seek out Sylvanas to do the questline, she's super easy to miss. Just like it's also easy to miss the subscription button. Did you see it right below the video? Ultimately, Gamma is very similar to Alpha and Beta, but how you approach the dungeons will completely change. So let's talk about the new rewards and how to change your strategy to get them a lot faster. So the big new reward in Rune Gamma is the new Defiler Scourge Stone currency. Every single boss in every Gamma dungeon will drop 1 Defiler Scourge Stone. These can then be turned in at the new Defiler Scourge Stone vendor for extremely overpowered rewards. Prices are subject to change, but for 12 Scourge Stones you can currently pick up a Primordial Serenite. The first week, Primordial Serenites will be worth over 3,000 gold, so there's incredible money-making potential here. You can also get 245 item level pieces like Death's Verdict and Reign of the Dead for 38 Scourge Stones each. And sure, I'm not gonna pass up on the free epic armor pieces from Gamma either, but I'm even more excited for the 245 weapons like the Dual Blade Butcher. Getting 245 weapons means I can finally start raiding more seriously on my Fury Warrior. The Scourge Stones dropping from every boss does present one very significant gameplay change. In beta dungeons, groups typically wanted to skip to the end boss as quickly as possible to maximize Sidereal Essence. Now though, you'll want to clear every possible boss to maximize Defiler Scourge Stones. This is usually the time in the video where I tell you to start planning for world tours. I tell you to get a pre-made together and run every possible dungeon for 61 Defiler Scourge Stones per day. Except in my PTR testing, something came up that completely changed my plans. That thing, my friends, was the Random Dungeon Finder. The RDF changes everything for Titan Rune Gamma. The first change is that if you queue up with RDF, you'll get a 5% damage, healing, and health buff, which makes the dungeons a lot easier. The second big change may be changed on live, but currently the random dungeon part of RDF is unaffected by dungeon lockouts. That means you can get the same dungeon multiple times in a row. Instead of being limited to a world tour like we were in Titan Rune Beta, you can now do as many Gamma Dungeons as you want. You could get a Abyss item like Solace of the Fallen in just 5 or 6 hours. This is also an incredible gold maker since you'll be getting bonus gold and Emblems of Triumph from every RDF you complete. And then you'll also be getting Epics to disenchant and Defiler Scourge Stones to turn into near Abyss items or stacks of gold. Speaking of dungeon gold, if you want to learn how to make even more gold with items like the Battered Hilt, you should definitely check out my 10 most expensive items video. Check that video out next.